Hello, everybody. This is Anthony Bionis from Mission Star Podcast, and like I said, we're back with another Conover episode, and we got, I think, for the next couple of weeks, we got a good plenty full of Conover episodes to talk about. SAC Anime, what else was there? Equestria LA and PMX and other good stuff. But if you're listening to this, one of the episodes you're about to listen to is all about DragonCon. No, I wasn't there. None of us were there, but our good friends over at, it's my, what was that again?
Misaki Studios. It's all good. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it works. It's just but
yeah, definitely. It's kind of sad to say our friends and I forget your website name.
No worries.
So that voice you heard is Bart, the head honcho of Team Misaki Studios. Welcome, Bart, to the show.
Thank you for having me again. It's an honor to be here.
Definitely. So you went to the promised land. You went to what I consider the boss of all bosses of conventions. First off, was this your first time going to DragonCon?
Yes, this is my very first time attending DragonCon, and it's without a doubt the most amazing convention I have ever been to since starting conventions in 2002, starting with AnimeCon and then the first out-of-state convention in 2012 with Anime Boston. And now, after years of hearing all about DragonCon from various cosplay photographers who have gone there as many years as 5 to 7 plus, they've all said that DragonCon is a convention that I would have to check out one of these years. And that opportunity came this year, and it was just a wonderful experience. It's definitely a different atmosphere. It's a lot more, I don't know what word would best describe this, but it's just an amazing atmosphere. It's very open, welcoming, warm welcomes, amazing costumes, so many guests left and right, many panels to go to. It was just an amazing convention. It was very well organized. There was a lot to do, a lot of costumes, and a lot of people. It was just an amazing convention. It was just an eye-opener for a lot of fans to attend who were not just, nerds and geeks like us,
right.
It was open to comic books. I did see some anime there, from panelists to guests to cosplays as well.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody is welcome. It doesn't matter, what you're cosplaying from. There's even people who are cosplaying from books, as in, there's no, pictures of these characters. It's, book characters that you see, in books. Because a friend of mine who went with me, she saw this random cosplayer, and I was looking at this cosplayer, and I was just thinking, it's just some guy, in a random, shirt, tie, glasses, whatever. But she said that guy's from a book. I was like, no way! How do you know that? And she said that she read the book, she knows the character's description, and it matched perfectly. I was just like, wow, this is a convention that opens up to many different costumes.
So,
it was just, wow.
So let me back up a bit. Describe DragonCon. What exactly is this convention? Because you and I know what it is exactly. But for those who don't know, what exactly is DragonCon? If you could describe what DragonCon is compared to other conventions you've been to, how would you do that?
So, in terms of what kind of convention this is a multi-genre convention, as it describes itself. So basically that means we're looking at mediums such as anime, comic books, sci-fi, fantasy, TV, movies, books, like we just mentioned a moment ago, just everything you could think of, from childhood to what's going on right now. Not too long ago, when I was reading about the guest list, I was seeing voice actors who did Animaniacs, and one particular actor who I know because I used to watch the show Spin City, Barry Bostwick, he was there. I was just like, whoa! I didn't know he was going to go to this convention. So he was hosting a panel, and I went to the panel. It was a panel about actors that choose certain roles and why they choose those roles. It was a very informative panel that we had the privilege to record. Another panel that we went to, which was a very different and unique panel that I actually enjoyed, which I would like to see other conventions do, is Ask a Character panel. So this panel had different voice actors from different genres. We had Commander Shepard, we had Goofy, we had, oh my goodness, we also had Yakko from Animaniacs.
Nice.
We also had Frylock. These are just the actors I just remember off the top of my head.
Frylock was there. That's awesome.
Yes. We recorded this panel. It's going to be on our YouTube page within the next couple of days. So as soon as it's uploaded, our website and our Facebook page will update the world saying, here's our video from these panels. So definitely look out for that panel. That panel was our favorite. Another panel that we also attended was the Animaniacs musical, which was a panel just about the songs. Both the staff writer and the voice actor of Yakko, he was present at the time too, described about how the Animaniacs made these songs and what inspired them to make them, and they actually do the actual songs in a performance, which was really good.
Nice.
And another panel that we were looking forward to as well was the Venture Brothers panel, which they made the announcement that a 6th season is underway and it will be coming out soon. So we were excited for that. It was just a fun panel. It was very huge. I guess I could say like the room itself was the largest panel room in the convention. If I had to put a ballpark guess, you're probably looking at maybe 1,000 people in the ballroom. And so while we were waiting in line, at no point did it feel like a long wait once the line started moving. The lines were very efficient. Like, as soon as we started moving in, we didn't stop. We didn't stop and go. We just kept going the whole time once the line started moving. It was very efficient. And I think DragonCon has a good format when it comes to doing their lines, given the nature that this isn't at your typical convention center that we're all accustomed to. This is split between 5 hotels and I think a shopping plaza. I didn't get a chance to go to the shopping plaza where the dealer's hall was because there was just so many things to do, and it was just not enough time to really go around to all the sites that are just, roaming around DragonCon. So as mentioned, this is between 5 hotels, 3 of the main ones, which is the Hyatt, the Marriott Marquis, and the Hilton. Those were where majority of the main panels were. The other hotel was the Westin, which hosted several different panels as well. One panel that we went to in particular was the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. panel, which that was a fun panel to attend to. There was a lot of joking around in that panel that you'll definitely see in our video once we get it reported. The Sheraton was mostly the registration. The cool thing I like about DragonCon is what they do is for your registration, they send you a postcard, but it has a QR code on it. And when you arrive to DragonCon, they'll tell you what line to go in. So you go into your pre-reg line, they scan the QR code, and then you get your badge, and you're ready to go for the convention.
Nice. So, I've seen like many videos of DragonCon over the years of just the sheer amount of size, and also through pictures as well. Like when you said 5 hotels or like 5 particular buildings in one particular area, all I can think of at the moment is like the base in Metal Gear Solid 5, and just like how it's just like just this big land in the middle of the sea. Like, I don't want to say it's bigger than San Diego Comic-Con. I don't think it is, but I don't think anything is, to be honest. But like the sheer amount of size, like how would you describe it? Because the pictures from what I've seen are just ridiculously huge.
It definitely is huge. As mentioned, it's not at your conventional convention center. This is between hotels, so it is a lot smaller in terms of size. So therefore, the pictures that you saw on our Facebook live feed, where you see like an enormous crowd, primarily dominant in the Marriott area, it's very huge, like in terms of crowd size, and the space is very small. So you're definitely going to run into a lot of crowd control. But so far, like, the crowd knows where they're going, so you're not going to get stuck in like one area for very long. The only time you probably would get stuck is if the panel came out, which, given the size of the area, it's going to be very small. So when you have like a herd of about 1,000 people coming out of a panel room on top of a crowd that's just, wanting to go through from one place to another, that's the only time you'll ever find yourself being stuck in one area.
Okay, gotcha. So,
But the best, well, sorry, but the best part at least was that if you didn't want to deal with the crowd, you could definitely go outside. The only downside to that is, well, this is during summertime, and East Coast is known for its humidity. So, if you don't mind bearing through the humidity of Atlanta during summertime, which I believe gets to around like the 90s on top of humidity, it's definitely hot. But during this past weekend, though, it didn't feel as bad as it traditionally is from a lot of people, from what they have told me. There was a good breeze here and there. There's a lot of shade area, so you're definitely going to have plenty of shade to go around to walk from one area to another. The hotels are connected. At least the main three are connected via skywalk. So that's pretty much your main modes of transportation in order to get to the three main hotels. While as the other, you have to kind of go outside and walk a little bit.
I see. Gotcha. Yeah, I was going to ask about the weather itself. Yeah, because I was kind of curious. Because most of the activities is mostly inside the convention area. And in terms of like if people need to go outside to get something or whatever, like I would assume like it's the East Coast weather is especially during the summer is not the greatest. It's pretty hot and humid, and I've experienced both ends, both West and East Coast. um, so I can definitely see that people will probably stay more inside than outside for sure.
Right, and that was the same thing when we went to Otakon too. It was hot and humid in Baltimore, and the only downside to Baltimore was that most of the restaurants were outside, and the only hotel that was connected to the convention center was just the Hilton, which we were looking to score that deal, so that was one of our deals. The other good thing too that I liked about this convention is there's a food court that's connected to both the Marriott and the Hyatt that is accessible by Skywalk. So the food is definitely, within reasonable distance within the food court. And for those of you who like to, experience local cuisine, most of the restaurants that are around that area are walkable. And I recall that maybe like occasionally from time to time, if you wanted to go out of your way to the well-known restaurants of Atlanta, you would probably like hop on, a bus or the new downtown tram that they just opened up, or Lyft and Uber, whichever is convenient for you to go explore at least, the general vicinity of the area.
Nice. Okay. Cool. My question is for you then is like, what was your go-to food? Like, what if like the when in doubt moment happened to you? Like, what is like, okay, let's just go here because it's short, it's reliable, and then probably cheaper.
Well, for that, since given the nature that this was my first time, I kind of had to, kind of like trial and error, see which one was good. On the first day, a friend of mine who I met up with at the airport over in Atlanta, she recommended this nice little Mexican restaurant that was within the food court. It was really good. It was a quesadilla with a little bit of chicken, bacon, amazingly, lettuce and tomatoes, and a little bit of salsa. Oh my god, that thing was good.
Nice.
So, most of the time I spent, eating in the food court. Occasionally, I got some of the food, like from the little, the coffee shop that's in the hotel traditionally, and to my surprise, was not as expensive as traditional hotels are. The price was fairly fair, not too expensive. It was reasonable. So I had my options right there. I didn't really get a chance to go outside the convention to try out any of like the local cuisines, given the nature that I was kind of like feeling for the convention, getting to know the area, the venue. So for sure next year when we return, I will definitely go out and see what else I can find that's nearby.
Interesting. So the hotel food was not as expensive as you said. What was it going for? Like just kind of the average.
So I bought a little sandwich, a grab and go sandwich down at our hotel. Was only $6, which is really not expensive.
Yeah, it's fine.
Add a drink to it, so you're looking at maybe $8 for that meal, which is actually pretty darn good if you ask me. Because most hotels would charge like $10 or $12 for something that's pretty petty and small, but our hotel was really reasonable. So I definitely got my money's worth.
Good point. I mean, like if you think about it, I mean, like we've been to many conventions that like prices for food and drinks at a convention is just like ridiculously high, and to kind of hear that it's like, oh, it's actually a price where it's actually affordable. That's good. It's good. So then my next thing I want to ask, because like this is something that I believe is like, if there was a 3-course meal, this would be like the appetizer slash second course of the meals, and I'm talking about the cosplays at DragonCon. I admire a lot of the cosplays at DragonCon because it, like you said, it's all genre based. Like there's no particular genre or series that dominates the other. It's a celebration of everything nerdy, and I love the creativity with these what cosplayers do with that freedom to do so with whatever genre it is. So my question to you then is, what particular cosplay stood out to you that weekend?
Oh my goodness, that's a tough one.
Not to put you in the spot.
No, it's hard to really pick like the good ones because, in all honesty, and my friend who I was speaking with about this, even the costumes that some people would consider half-assed, even those were really good. Like it was just mind-blowing to see like how amazing and creative these costumes were. I mean, it's really hard to say, which one that I like the most. I have to say, everybody's costumes were just amazing. Like, the creativity behind them, the originality between, like, the ones that you would probably never expect to see, in any, like, typical anime or Comic-Con based convention. Like, for example, one that I particularly liked was, if you remember in the first movie of Jurassic Park, you had the little DNA, animation that was in the movie. Earlier throughout the weekend, I saw on a Facebook post it was walking around somewhere. I was like, oh my goodness, I gotta find this guy. I'm gonna take a picture of it. So, throughout the weekend, I was looking for him, and then my luck on the last day, there he was, walking around, took his picture. I was like, this just made my weekend complete.
Nice.
At least one of many. Another good one that I saw that I really got a kick out of the most was, we posted it on our Facebook too, was the Celebrity Jeopardy from SNL, if you saw that. That one was just like out of nowhere, like, oh my goodness, that's hilarious. That's just beautiful.
That's awesome. Was that like spontaneously just made right on the spot, or was that particularly set up at a certain date and time?
It's hard to really say, because like I say, when it comes to this convention, it's anything goes. Anything can happen. I mean, you never know what you're going to run into. I mean, things can come at you when you least expect it. It's just, it can go from out of nowhere, and it can take you by surprise. I mean, another one that I heard was, this is through, like, the Tumblr, the Twitters, and everything else in between, but there's this cosplayer, or a group of cosplayers, that made, I kid you not, they based their costume off the carpet of the Marriott.
Ah, yes.
I was like, oh my goodness, there's people cosplaying as the carpet. That's unbelievable. Like, you would never expect to see something like that at, an anime convention or a comic convention. But it was just like, oh my goodness, that's hilarious.
Yes.
And this was on the last day that I found one of those costumes, because I was thinking to my head, I want to find those cosplayers. I just want to spot them. And surely enough, I spotted them. Just right out of nowhere, I spotted them. It's like,
were they on the floor blending in with the carpet?
So the one that I found, it was a girl who, I guess she was doing the camouflage version. So she was on the floor, kind of like trying to blend in with the carpet, and it was really well done. It was fun. It was funny. It was really nice. I was just like, oh my goodness, this is so awesome. Another prime example, as I'm looking through my photos here right now, I'm trying to find any that just took me by surprise. There was one that I found that I thought was very clever. So this one in particular, it's in our photo coverage as well. The story behind this one was, I was walking by the Marriott area, and then suddenly out of nowhere, I see like a group of like, light blue colored, furry like things to my left. And I looked over and I was like, oh my goodness, that's the Squirrel Squad. with their
Oh,
glasses.
yeah, yeah.
It's awesome. You rarely see something like that. I was just like, wow, that is beautiful. That is very well done. It's just, wow,
Hmm.
amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I'm the outside looking in as I'm kind of just like looking through your photos with everybody else's photos that's been going over Facebook and Twitter. Again, a lot of creativity and a lot of great cosplays that I saw out at that convention. And it's really cool to see, just kind of see what people do with like different ideas that you would normally do at said anime or comic convention. So it's really cool to see, definitely.
Definitely. And the one thing too is like if you value your childhood cartoons, this con brought it back to life because um, right when I was walking through the Marriott, I turned to one part of this area and I saw Tom and Jerry. I was like, holy cow, this is my childhood walking right in front of me. I have to take a picture of this. I have to go do this. And it was just mind-blowing to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool, definitely, for sure to see it. Again, looking from the outside in, I'm just like, just sitting there. Well, to be funny, here's the funny thing, it's like, I was watching this happen, and I was in Chicago, actually, at the time. And I was there because my dad was taking me there for a graduation gift, and, like, I'm, like, looking at that, it's like, man, I wish I go to DragonCon. I mean, it's cool, I'm in Chicago having fun, but, man, it looks so cool.
It definitely was a great experience. I mean, like, the one thing that really stood out with this convention was just, there's so many things to do for everybody. It's not the typical, oh, we have panels for the fandoms, we have little workshops that we have. They have everything there. Like, the guests even have fun at this convention. Like, I didn't see a single guest that didn't look like they want to be there. Like, they all were having a great time. They wanted to be there. They were, interacting with the fans, which another thing which I definitely want to bring up is traditionally most anime conventions and some comic conventions, it varies on which one you go to, you have the guests, panel, they do their autograph sessions, they call it a day. At this con, they had an area called the Walk of Fame, not like the Hollywood one, by the way, but this little area has all the celebrity guests who are at the convention, and you get to mingle with them. Like, you can mingle with them. Like, you don't have to, sit there, ask for an autograph or anything like that. You could just mingle with anyone in the room.
That's
You
cool.
have you had people from, Stargate, I think not Stargate, Battlestar Galactica, and there was also people from American Horror Story, which that was really cool to see.
Nice,
And
nice.
you had the voice actors, from anime here and there, and Bill Farmer with Goofy doing his thing in the same area too. It was just, you can mingle with these people. I mean, you could just chat with them, for like a minute or two, if the line's not long, or if there's nobody there at their table, and you could just walk over to them, have a little chit chat with them. Um, of course, I would definitely like to buy their merchandises just for, the sake of I want to support them. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
these are actors that we all love, we grew up with, and it's just, to see them, having to take the time out of their, busy schedule to interact with the fans in this little format it was amazing. And I wish all conventions would follow this because, you know, it's good to meet the guests and such, but it's just, why not actually give them an opportunity to, like, mingle with their fans instead of just, going to their panels, signing autographs, and then, that's the end of their day. I mean, there's so much more that you can really do, and they don't have to, strictly stay in that room. They can come and go as they please. So that way, they can go walk around the convention, enjoy their time, in the city that they're in, because, most of these guests, they love to interact with their fans. They love the atmosphere that conventions like this bring to them. It makes them glad that, their work is being noticed and that they're appreciated for all the hard work that they've done over their lifetime. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that makes cons more fun to go to, that makes it memorable, and, you get the best of both sides. You get the guests who are happy. You get the attendees who are happy. And, the autograph lines were very well organized, as far as, like, when they had their dedicated autograph sessions. And And of course, if you miss their autograph session, you can always go to the Walk of Fame to see if you can get any more autographs from them, as mentioned. And overall, it's just a good way to really interact with the guests when you go to a convention. And I would definitely say, like, DragonCon has, like, the right idea of how to have their guests interact with their fans. So I think this was definitely, A plus to them on their work.
Nice, nice. It's really cool to hear that that like the guests of honor are not only are they guests of honor, but they're actually people too. I mean, it's kind of weird to say that, but like having them mingle with the crowd and just like be one of the the guys or one of the the girls just like hanging out. Like the last time I saw that type of interaction was Anime ALA, where might have been this past year or last year, but like the actual voice actors of some of the characters that people were cosplaying as, they actually came out to the League of Legends gathering and they were posing with their characters. And it was really cool because I've never seen like a special guest or voice actor come out and say hey, let me pose with you in the gathering. It's like it's really cool. So it's nice to hear that DragonCon is very laid back and it kind of sets that up for people to kind of just come in and it's like talk to any of the guests just because why not. But that's cool. That's great to hear, definitely. So I'm generally curious in terms of like what was the general atmosphere with the con goers that were there, because in our experiences we go to an anime convention, we always have certain type of people who go to these conventions where they're mature enough or they're being too dumb. My experience at Comic Con or like at WonderCon, like people are more mature and laid back. Like it's more of a chill atmosphere. What was Dragon's Con atmosphere, if you can describe it?
Well, yeah, I can definitely say, like, it's a different environment, it's a different crowd. They're older, mature, but even, like, the young people that I came across were even more mature as well, which I was very, taken by surprise because, typically most anime conventions, it's mostly a younger generation and younger crowd. Most of the times, like, you'll hear about, the drama behind the scenes from cosplayers to attendees and all that stuff. But with this con, I didn't feel like that existed. Like, it didn't feel like, there's certain cliques that follow cliques or certain, age groups will stick to age groups. It was more welcoming. Like, more people were up to talking to random people that they hang out with in lines or, they see a costume they really like, they start mingling with them, which is what most anime cons have slowly started to lose, at least here in California that I've noticed, but
Right.
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that, yet over at ASEN when I first went, and I didn't see that at Otakon and Anime Boston too when I went to those conventions. So, like I said, I'm not sure if it's just California only, but as mentioned, everyone's very welcoming. They're very humble. Like, even the staff, like, at the hotels, food court, even they were friendly, too. Like, they really, like, they didn't look miserable no, I don't want to be here, blah, 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 blah. But, like I mentioned earlier, when I went downstairs to the coffee shop at my hotel, like, I always saw this lady who was working there every morning. She was always smiling. It's just, wow, you're really accustomed to this because this is a big convention. You have thousands of people here. You got this long line, and you're able to keep a smile. I'm like, wow, you're not losing your posture. You're not losing your composure. You're just, you're enjoying it. Like, she was, I overheard her like talking to like all of her customers, asking, are you having fun at the con? How's everything? Blah 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 blah. I was like, wow, they're really proactive about this because most of the times, like, when you work in that area of, retail or hotel hospitality, you get really tired, you don't want to deal with large crowds, especially, like, for these type of conventions. But it seemed like everybody that was working there was just, they were very friendly, and they didn't turn their heads or look like, they felt miserable. Like, they enjoyed the atmosphere that DragonCon brings and all the people that they meet. Like, I've even heard, like, a couple of, like, some of the vendors who were working there at the food stands, like, oh, how you doing? Good to see you again. It's like people know each other. Like, it's gotten to that that level of comfort where they're just accustomed to it. And even when I was at the airport going back to San Francisco, like, I overheard the Southwest workers talking about DragonCon and how amazing it was. And I was just like, wow, the whole city knows about it.
Nice.
I guess that would explain, like, the little banners that they had, which we took a picture of that says, DragonCon, making Labor Day making Labor Day Atlanta's favorite holiday, which is what I saw on all their banners when it was over all around the area. So I could definitely say, like, the people there were just very nice, very generous. We all hear about that term, the Southern hospitality. It was definitely there. I can definitely say that the hospitality was there. Like, and the funny part was, like, at the bar at our hotel, I believe it was on Saturday and some parts of Sunday, even the staffers dressed up in costume. I was like, oh my goodness, that's awesome.
That's pretty sick.
Like, I don't know, like, if the hotel just said, while this convention's going on, you're welcome to dress up. And then all the staff workers at the bar were just dressed up. Like, one in particular that I met over the weekend through our roommates, he was dressed up like Freddy Krueger. Nice. And I saw him. I was like, whoa, you're dressed up as Freddy Krueger. That's awesome. So my roommate and I, we were talking to him, and he was like, yeah, I want to dress. Our boss told us, we're going to dress up, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, that's awesome. Your boss let you guys do that for this weekend. It just makes, it, like I said, it makes the atmosphere a lot more welcoming. I mean, the hotel people like the con. The food court workers, they love the con. I'm sure even, like, the locals in downtown Atlanta love the con when it comes into the town.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's great to hear. You often hear many of the hotel people at other conventions who may not be as nice or, are just there to you to, get your money and, do what your business and leave. It's great to hear that DragonCon, like, everyone, including the staff and the people working in hotels, were having a great time, as well as the congoers and everybody else in between. That's great to hear. Definitely, it's good to hear, and definitely very encouraging for future DragonCons. And what was it recently? I just saw that it just like increased in size this past year. Like 79,000 attended this year's DragonCon.
That's right.
That is nuts. So. Are we going to get to a point where, that it's going to be too huge for DragonCon itself, or is the amount of, like, space in this complex enough to house 79 plus people? Like, is there any more room for any more people at this point for the next coming years?
It's hard to really say, honestly, because DragonCon has traditionally been in this vicinity for a very long time, from what I've heard. So my guess is that if they ever need to expand, I'm sure there's another hotel somewhere in downtown Atlanta that's willing to open its doors and say, hey, you know what? Come to our area. We'll open up more panel rooms for you guys. We'll do whatever we can to, cooperate with your needs and everything in between. Mm-hmm. So that's what I think is what I'm seeing from what I can gather up, like, just by seeing everything the way it is. And I think, in all honesty, that's just, I think the way they have it set up is good. And I'm sure, like, even until this day, they're looking for ways to improve their convention, which, there's still always going to be growing curves. So I think with DragonCon, they found, like, a formula that they like, and, that old saying, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Which, in this case, they found something that works. It's not broken. They're not fixing it.
True. I mean, in given time, we'll definitely see how things will go. DragonCon, as I said, being this podcast, I believe is the boss of all bosses of conventions. So I want to ask you. I know you went to check it out. How was the gaming room?
So I briefly got a chance to see the gaming room. Nothing like spectacular, because most giant conventions, you're not going to want to assume that just because it's a big convention, you're going to get, like, an amazing game room, such as Otakon, for example, would be a good example. Fanime 2 is also another great example, too. Those two conventions have, like, great game rooms that are really fun. There's a lot that they have to offer. With DragonCon, it was mostly just, like, a room with PCs. But I think, if anything, like, their gaming would have to be like Dungeons and Dragons, like the board games. would be more pro-dominant than digital video games that we're usually accustomed to. But I'm sure, like, they want to make sure they cater to the video gamers as well, at least give them a fairly good sizable room with, the PlayStation, the Xbox, the Wii U, the PC gamers, which they had, like, a good amount of PC stations in the game room. And then the traditional, console gaming, which they had, if I had to take a wild guess, maybe they had like 10 stations set up, which is, fairly average for a convention. So I wouldn't honestly be as surprised like if the game room is not, as glamorous as like other conventions. Another game room that I heard that appears to be the king of game rooms, from what I've heard, was YomaCon. But I've yet to see YomaCon, and we do plan on going to YomaCon in 2017. So that's definitely going to be on our list, because we've heard a lot of good things about YomaCon, and that's out in Detroit, Michigan. We definitely want to give that a shot too out there, so that's going to be in our future list.
So you're saying that you just announced that Team Masaki CEOs is going to YomaCon next year?
2017. Next year's 2016.
Oh, 2017. Okay. 2017. That's right. We have an exclusive announcement right here on our podcast.
Yes, we've already made the decision to go to YomaCon in 2017. The reason why we chose 2017 is next year we're going to be cutting back on convention coverage, as a trip to Japan will be taking place in November for an entire month.
That is definitely something that you should definitely save up for.
Definitely, and I'm going to take that time to, travel less to several conventions, so only key conventions will be attended. The key conventions that we definitely have listed so far are mandatory conventions, which is none other than, in no particular order, Anime Boston, Anime Central, FanimeCon, and DragonCon. Those 4 conventions will always be attended, regardless of what our year entails to. So, without a doubt, those will be our main 4. We do have our convention for KatsuCon in the works right now. It is going to be looked into. So far, we have the hotel. We're just now doing the logistics on the airline portion. But we definitely will say that it is on our list. We're going to be doing our best to attend. Another convention that we're looking into returning to is ALA, but given the change of venue, it's not a matter of the finances, it's more along the matter of convenience, since it's at a different airport that's closest to the venue.
I see. Gotcha. Okay. Understandable. Getting back to DragonCon, so, refresh your memory, how long is DragonCon in the span of the weekend? Is it a 4-day event, or?
This is a 4-day event, so it officially starts on Friday, and it ends on Labor Day. From what I saw from another photographer who was there a couple days early, there was a good amount of crowd on day -1. Like it was a size crowd. Like, so if you look at our picture where we showed you the entire lobby on Saturday night, and you saw that enormous crowd. If you look at the picture that shows the left side of the lobby, that area alone with that entire crowd, that was how big day -1 was.
That's insane.
Like, there are people for this convention days, even a week before the con starts, and they're just enjoying Atlanta. I honestly think that if there's people that are going to the con that early, it definitely gives you that question of, is this con really that good if people are coming, days in advance or even a week in advance? In my response to that is, I would say, yeah, it has to be worth it if people are coming that early for a convention of this magnitude.
Okay, that's very, very high praise. Days before, that is nuts. That is completely nuts, but I can understand the convention's that good.
Because seeing like photographs of people lining up on day -1 overnight for Anime Expo, which we've seen that before.
Right, yeah.
None of those people are there just to hang out. They're just there to wait for their badge, and then they're off to the races. DragonCon, it's just people mingling, like in the lobby. They're not picking up a badge. They're just mingling. They're not waiting in line for a panel or their badges over at the Sheraton. They're just mingling. It was unbelievable to see this picture. Like the night before I was about to leave for Atlanta, and then my photographer buddy shows this picture saying, "This is day -1." I was like, "Whoa, unbelievable!" And then when we arrived, exactly, you're just at a loss for words. And then when we arrived on day 0, and then we took that picture of the lobby, and you saw how crowded it was. It's like that's DragonCon in a nutshell, right there. It's surreal.
So, my next thing I'm gonna ask is, what type, like, is there a curfew for DragonCon, or is this thing going on the entire time in those 4 days?
So, if I had to be maybe realistic, I think this convention is 24/7 until Monday morning hits, because it seems like no one sleeps at this con. Like, this is the real con that doesn't sleep. I mean, even like when you're going to the room at like 3 in the morning, you still hear people downstairs in that lobby screaming and cheering. I mean, it's just, it never ends. I mean, like, even the crowd may be a little less than what you see like during the night portions between like maybe 12 and 3 a.m. in the morning, but somewhere around like after 3:30 or so, you could still hear the crowd even if it's dying down a little bit.
That's nuts. That is crazy, but that is cool. So my question then is, like, how did you approach it? Like, how did you approach these several days of just like, you're new to this convention, and this is a thing that's happening like each day. Not only is a crowd, not say crowd, but it's very active. Like, what was your initial plan, and was that plan dashed away within the first hour of being there?
I didn't honestly have a particular plan. It was mostly just getting settled, getting ready, bracing myself for what's going to happen, because as mentioned, this is my first time going to this con, and you got to really be wary of what you're about to get yourself into, because many people who go to conventions of this size, they don't know what to expect. So my best advice for this type of convention is definitely look at the website, see who's coming for the guests, look up what panels you might be interested in going to, because chances are you may have to line up fairly early, or not even that early. Like, I found myself lining up at a half hour before a panel, and I was able to get in just fine, even with a long line involved. And it was just like the Venture Brothers panel. Obviously, I knew that was going to be like a very popular panel to go to, but given the track record of all the other panels that I went to, I figured I'll go maybe like 40 minutes before the panel starts. So 40 minutes before the panel, went to where the line was, stood out there for about maybe 20, 25 minutes tops. Then the line started moving, and it never stopped. Kept going in, got in a fairly good seat, set up my camera equipment, started the recording once the panel started. Another thing that I was planning as far as like what I wanted to do was, take pictures of the cosplayers, check out the main like attractions, the main events. One in particular that's very unique, that's never been done at other conventions, is the costume parade.
Yes,
And
yes, that is one of the most highlights, in my opinion, of DragonCon. If anyone goes, it's definitely check out.
definitely. The parade that we usually do here in California would be the NorCal Cherry Blossom Festival, which in actuality, it's not just a costumes parade. That's just one particular section. This parade is the mother of parades. Seeing different costumes, a lot of... I have actually noticed that during the parade that there were some different groups of people that were doing like little performances like in front of the crowd. One in particular were the medieval times recreation people
Mm-hmm.
that were actually fighting with real swords.
Nice.
Like you could hear the clanging and everything, and I was just like, "Whoa, this is really cool." I mean, you don't see that very often.
Mm-hmm.
So this parade will give you the best of everything. You know, you got your medieval times, you got your pirates, you got the anime, you got the sci-fi, the fantasy, the Star Wars, the Star Trek. You had everything. I mean, like, there was just so much creativity with this parade. And when you see our video, which will be uploaded later on this week as well, you'll definitely see, like, you know, the different variety of like costumes that walk by, the little acts that they perform when they walk by, the interaction between the crowd and the cosplayers was very, very nice to see too, because you know there's a bunch of little kids like, you know, that were out there too, and they wanted to see like their favorite superheroes pass by, and you know they were just interacting with them. You know, this is something that really, you know, I hold dear to me, is that the interaction between cosplayers and young children, you know, especially when they're at that young age of 5 years and all, you know, you're the one who's going to leave a great impression on them if you walk up to them and greet them. I mean, they look up to us, and it's up to us to make sure that, you know, we give them the right impression when we see them. You know, if they wave at you, you wave back at them, or go the extra step and walk over and approach them, you know, shake their hand, you know, say, "Do you want a photo with me?" You know, their parents will gladly take that photo, because there's no great satisfaction than, you know, making a young child's, you know, dream come true, or make their day just by, you know, interacting with them. And that's what I saw during this parade too. And you'll see it in our videos, and you might see it in some of our photographs too, where you see like the Star Wars people, you know, walking up to the kids, you know, high-fiving them, or, you know, taking pictures with, you know, the kids, and the parents taking the photographs. Heck, even one of the hotel workers that was monitoring the driveway where we were at, even she took pictures and selfies with some of the costumers who were walking by. And I'm just like,
Nice.
what, you know, left a great impression on my mind about this convention is it really brings together, you know, the whole city practically. At least, you know, in the downtown area, it does. And, you know, if it can do stuff like that, that means this convention really, you know, as you've said, it is the boss of all conventions. And it really does show, like, when you go to this convention and you see the interactions between the attendees, the staff, the volunteers, the workers. I mean, even the local police themselves who were on site, they were interacting with the attendees. Like, some of them even knew them by name. Even the joking around, like when the attendees were joking around with Atlanta PD saying, "Hey, that's a great costume."
Nice.
Atlanta PD officers like, "Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. I worked very hard to get this costume." I was just like, wow, that was hilarious.
That's really cool, and it's really. I mean, I can't say any best on what you said about, you know, how kids interact with cosplayers at DragonCon during the parade, and how, you know, to them, like, you know, seeing somebody in costume, you know, they believe that character is real for that one moment, and, you know, that makes them, you know, makes their day awesome. And yeah, it's great to hear, and it's really awesome. It's one of the, I think, main staples of DragonCon is the parade, and having all sorts of different genres come together to kind of show off, you know, it's anime, it's games, it's, you know, medieval times, it's Star Wars, it's Star Trek, it's whatever you're into, it's there. And I like the fact that they show this off, and they don't keep it all inside, you know, DragonCon, the convention itself. They actually come out and they show, you know, these are just costumes, you know, that these people worked on over, you know, how many long months, years even. So that's really cool. Again, like, I think DragonCon's approach to how a convention is only run, but also like how it is also in a way giving back to the community is really cool. It's really awesome to see. Oh man. So let's see. Okay, you were there. You were there in the trenches. I have to ask, because in the span of 4 days, there must have been many moments, or just so much activity going on in convention. Is there any particular time or time of day where like a particularly weird or funny thing like happened right in front of you, and you can only admit to saying like, yes, only at a convention?
I would have to unfortunately decline that because from what I've heard from other attendees, that term means nothing to these people. They just say, "Oh, it's just DragonCon,"
Oh.
or "Oh, DragonCon." There's just it's like what we were saying earlier with the carpet cosplayer. Only at DragonCon you could see something like that, or only at DragonCon you could see like people doing crazy stuff like I don't know, just stuff that it's it's just something that you'd have to go to DragCon to experience.
So this is going on. This is always going on. There's no stagnant moment at any given time at DragonCon.
Pretty much. I mean, like for all we know, like we can walk around DragCon and suddenly something out of nowhere happens, and then you hear people on it. Only at DragonCon you'll see something like that. It's just like on the last day. When I believe I may have mentioned about the Jeopardy cosplayers that I randomly saw, I was like, you would probably never see something like that at any other convention or anything like that. Hence the term, only at DragonCon.
Nice. All right. Well, yeah, I came into this podcast already liking DragonCon after seeing photos and videos of it, only to be now into more convinced, like, yes, so this has to happen next year.
Definitely. I do highly recommend this con. And the other thing, too, I noticed this on the last day, is on Monday, which is the last official day of DragonCon, you could definitely leave the convention early, because I noticed that the crowd difference between from Thursday to Sunday was like, where did everybody go? Everybody just disappeared. And the crowd was just like, maybe an eighth of what I saw was all I saw around DragonCon, which was like, wow, everyone just up and left. Like, you could pretty much just head back to the airport like around like 2 or 3 o'clock and then just come back to wherever you're originated from, and then your con experience it's pretty much it. Like, I stayed until 5 o'clock because, I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything on the last day, and evidently there's not really much to see on the final day. I mean, everyone, they had a good time, they enjoyed their time. They enjoyed the 5 days or 6 days or however many days they all did at DragCon, and they all just pretty much went home. I mean, to see something like that, I mean, it's like people know, like, the con's over. Whatever they have left over, they don't really need to, worry about. They're just gonna call it a day, call it early, and just head out. But for me, like, it was just surreal to just see it like empty, like more empty than an anime convention. I was just like, wow, it just disappeared. Like even like when I was at Anime Expo years ago, I was just like, wow, there's still a good amount of people at Anime Expo. SAC Anime, last time we were there in January, there was a good fair amount just walking around. But this con was just, where did it go? Everyone's gone. It's crazy. Like, I guess the party's over, once 2 o'clock hits on Sunday night, I mean, everyone's just, heading back to the rooms or getting ready to go. I know for a fact that flights leaving Atlanta, as early as 8 o'clock is cheapest. So my guess is just a lot of people were heading to the airport to catch their flights and then call it a day, head home.
Wow. I have nothing else to say. Other than thank you for joining me on this podcast to talk everything about DragonCon.
Not always. Not everything, actually. There's one little thing I saved for the very last part.
Oh, then by all means, go for it.
So, there's one thing we will never, ever see, probably at any anime or maybe to some extent comic book conventions, that I think only DragonCon does exclusively at their show.
Okay.
I'm going to say these words very carefully. DragonCon TV.
I've heard about that, and I saw like some images about that. That's actually pretty cool. I like the idea.
And it's all in-house. Everything you see on DragonCon TV is in-house based. And another cool thing that they do as well is they do live streams or live broadcasts, I should say, of certain like key events. Like for example, they did the masquerade, they did the parade, which is their main, their main babies to go watch. So they had that. So basically, DragonCon TV is Adult Swim meets Robot Chicken meets Saturday Night Live. So you get like hilarious like skits and Adult Swim like title cards that are just hilarious and that are like very well creative. One example of an SNL like skit that they did on DragonCon TV was so if you're familiar with the State Farm commercials, you'll know they'll have that little jingle like State Farm is there. With this one, it was just a bunch of random like sci-fi based aliens that are having issues with their spaceships, and they all say, like a good neighbor, Space Farm is there. And of course you'll see like the Space Farm representative coming out, and then they do their little thing, and then at the very end there's these two aliens that had like a major accident with their spaceship, and they said, "Oh man, our coverage doesn't cover damage by Will Smith." I was just like, I get it. Independence Day.
So are these specifically TVs placed around the convention, or are these also channels within the hotel rooms that people are staying in they can tune into as well?
So there are channels within the hotel rooms. So if you're ever back in the hotel room and you want something entertaining to watch that's not just the regular TV that we're accustomed to, you just tune in to DragonCon TV, and you can watch this this hilarious like program. No extra charge. Before each panel that you go to, they play it too. So they'll play DragonCon TV before the panel starts, and it's just, oh my goodness, all the skits that they do is hilarious. I mean, there's never a moment on DragonCon TV that doesn't make you laugh. Everything is guaranteed to leave you entertained. As mentioned, if you're exhausted, you definitely watch DragonCon TV. It's definitely a very funny and very creative, original idea that this convention did. And in all honesty, I would love to see conventions, try something like this. I mean, some conventions, I think AX, they play like anime, on all the TVs, like when you go to the convention, I believe. I haven't had a chance to really stay at a hotel since the last time I went to Anime Expo because I stayed at a friend's house. But I keep hearing that, if you're in the hotel room at AX, you can watch the anime channel, which shows you all the anime and everything in between. And then, of course, we have AnimeCon Stage 0, which, if there's something you want to do or you want to wait, let the time pass by, you go to the stage and, watch whatever they're doing on site. That's really the only two conventions that really stand out in my mind that, has some, something like con exclusive. And for DragonCon, DragonCon TV was their con exclusive.
That's really cool.
Non-stop entertainment. Yeah, so non-stop entertainment, 24/7. I would definitely like to see other conventions try this out. I think this would definitely add more entertainment value for a convention, given the nature that this is an everything con. You could definitely make something out of even anime or comic books. As said, I don't know if Comic-Con does something like this when you go to Comic-Con, so that's a convention that's we want to go to, but, given how hard it is to get a ticket to go into the convention, we're not going to see that come anytime soon, but even if we did, we have to make sure we logistically plan it out. So that's definitely one thing on our to-do list, but going back to the topic briefly, it's just DragonCon TV was just the most entertaining thing you could ever see at this convention. And as we said it around DragonCon, only at DragonCon.
It's like the motto of the convention. That's really cool. It's really smart too. And I like the fact that you're in a convention, and why not utilize everybody's hotel room TVs to your own channel and cater to that. That's really cool. That's pretty sick. So and again, I am yet impressed, even more so than before in this podcast. And thank you for sharing that. And now we can properly end the show. So again, thank you, Bart, for coming down to the podcast studios to talk about everything DragonCon.
No, not a problem. Thank you for the invite. I was definitely looking forward to talking about this. I mean, as mentioned, this convention is the everything convention.
You just
This is the ultimate geeks and nerds gathering that caters to every different genre. As mentioned, not just anime, not just comics or sci-fi. It's just everything. You could pretty much say that DragonCon is the one convention that I honestly would think would be a great first out of con, or not out of con, out of state experience for those who are willing to travel out of the state, especially those here in California, because most Californians, they tend to just stay here in California to only attend California cons. But in my honest opinion, I honestly think it's a good idea to really expand your horizon to different conventions outside the state, because then you can see how other states do conventions. You can see the differences that, maybe this con does this because it works better, or this con does this because it works better for them. I mean, you definitely get more for your money, and you get more experience to see what's really out there. I mean, we're just one piece of a big puzzle here. I mean, there's so many conventions in the U.S., even up north in Canada and down south in Mexico. I would definitely say, do take a chance to look into this convention, because this is definitely a wonderful convention. It was a great atmosphere, great staff, great venue. And all in all, this was definitely the best convention we've hands down been to in the, since 2002. This is the best convention we have ever been to. And we are very happy to add it into our mandatory convention schedule indefinitely from this day forward. So I would highly recommend this convention. My other good advice would be, if you're going to go to your typical, SAC animes, maybe AX, or Fanime, I honestly say, do take a time to really skip any of those cons that you're accustomed to in California, because the cons will still be there. They will always be here in California. They could move it to a different venue, but in retrospect, they will always be here in California. I mean, they will always be there the following year when you go. You could definitely say that, the opportunity to go to this convention should really be taken advantage of. I mean, everyone has the equal opportunity to go to DragCon. It's just a matter of how you plan, how you finance this convention. It is doable. I mean, anyone can do it. It takes time. You just gotta plan it out. See how much you have to save up for it. It is doable. I would definitely say, take the time to study, see what you can get out of it. And before you know it, you'll definitely be at DragonCon in no time.
the more you know. G.I. Joe. I two things. I could tell you were just bursting wanting to talk about this convention after you hopped on. And secondly, actually, this lost train of thought. Actually, anyways, yeah. Oh, wait, that's right. I remember now. So this now confirms that Team Asagi Studios has confirmed DragonCon best convention of the year. Boom. Okay, now we can move on. Before we go, Bart, where can they find you on the internet?
So you can find us on our website at www.teammisaki, that's misaki.org. You can also find us on Facebook as well. We do have a Facebook page. To see our photos, you can see the gallery section in our website. And we do post the links on Facebook as well if you're a Facebook user. Our YouTube page is also linked on our website, so you can go visit us on our YouTube page as well. The photographs have been uploaded and are ready for viewing. The videos themselves, they will also be uploaded later on this week. We're currently rendering just 3 more videos that are due hopefully by Thursday. And after that, from Thursday on out, we'll be uploading them one by one throughout the upcoming weekend for your enjoyment. We do have a new Tumblr page that we just started recently. You can find us on Tumblr as well. It is also linked on our website. Otherwise, we have our websites, we do have our business cards, and we definitely want to say thank you, DragonCon attendees, thank you, staff, thank you, volunteers. Big shout out to the city of Atlanta for, hosting a wonderful convention. To all the hotels who took part of this convention, big kudos to you for handling this convention. And to the Hyatt Hotel who we stayed with, we enjoyed our time there. we're definitely looking forward to coming back next year.
Awesome. Great to hear. You can follow me personally on Twitter at Naruto. You can follow the work that I do, as well as this podcast on the website at missionstartpodcast.com, where you can follow us on iTunes and Stitcher for more Conover episodes. We have a lot more Conover episodes coming up. Like I said prior to beginning this podcast, we have PMX. We got D23 podcast coming up. We got SAC Anime. And we got more to come for sure. Definitely the convention season has not stopped, and we have not stopped either. So, with that being said, we'll see you guys next time.
So Anthony, I think Anthony left the door to his studio unlocked. Let's go check that out real quick.
Yeah.
You know, I promise, I don't think he set any mouse traps or anything, but I've been fooled before, and I think I've lost like 3 toes in this hallway.
3 toes in this hallway?
Well, you know, I only need 7 to do anything. At least that's what I'm
Only 3
told.
toes in this hallway? My God,
Well,
you people ever clean?
Well, yeah, you don't see my toes laying around, do you? Okay, hang on. I think this is the door. Let me see if it's unlocked. Oh, crap, it's unlocked. Hang on. Come on in. Yeah, this is really cool. Now,
Ow, what was that?
What?
Oh, no.
Oh, God, don't do that, man. Now, just promise me, please don't set anything on fire. I'm, like, dead serious about... I'm serious. Do not set anything on fire. I got in trouble for that last time.
Okay.
Last time I let somebody on Craigslist in here. Okay, so that's his microphone. Okay, I'm gonna lick this real quick. Ugh, God, that's a bad idea. Okay.
Yeah, smells like a bad idea from over here.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you want to sit down in that chair?
No. Let me put some newspaper on it first.
Oh, you know, that's probably the smartest thing you've said yet. Okay, lights. Okay, recorders. Okay, all right, this looks like it works.
Oh. This is what it looks like with the lights on?
I know, you get used to it eventually. If
I
not,
kind of felt safer in the darkness, but
Well,
yeah, leave them up.
Look, if you have nightmares, we'll pay for your therapist, okay?
Yeah, I've heard that before.
I know. Well, that was last year, this is this year, and, you know, I have like $3 more, so.
Ooh. That's like 6 more sessions for me.
Okay, smartass. All right. Let's see. Okay, that's on. All right. Okay. Hello and welcome to a hijacked episode of the Conover. I am Jeremy, and with me today is Alan. Say hello, please.
Hello, hello.
I invited Alan by, first of all, because Anthony again left the door to the studio unlocked, and, well, only as unlocked as I have the keys, and that's because I picked his pocket, but that's a whole other story. I invited Alan by because no one from MSP made it out to DragonCon this year. It has been described as one of the best conventions to go through during the year, and since I have not been myself, I figure I gotta ask somebody.
And I thought you were asking me because I own a crowbar that could have opened that door anyway.
Well, it helped.
Oh, okay. What can I tell you about DragonCon?
Oh, first of all, tell us a little something about you, because no one's ever heard your voice before. Some people are annoyed at mine, I'm sure.
Okay.
What's your day occupation? What do you do when you don't put on a mask and save the city from evil and everything?
Oh, we're supposed to be saving the city from evil. Oh.
Did I forget to send you that memo? Okay.
Oh, boy. I think I was reading the wrong manual. In my day job, I work as a training support personnel, which means I work with instructors and administrators to keep training on point and make sure all the P's and Q's are there and the books are printed or in the room and all that fun stuff, and updating the lesson plans and all that fun.
So you're one of those guys that people sneer at when they walk down the hallway just trying to do their job.
Probably, except since we are the people that make everything happen, people have figured out not to get us too riled or things won't happen.
Understood. And what made you decide to go to DragonCon? Are you an annual out there, or is this your first time?
I started going to DragonCon in 2008. I am not an Atlanta native, and that's the city where DragonCon takes place, is Atlanta, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I actually live about 2.5 hours to the east, outside of Augusta, Georgia.
Oh.
And I'd heard about DragonCon since I moved down here in 2001. And finally, in 2008, I had the window to go, and I'd spent 7 years intervening, hearing all this stuff about DragonCon, and I have to say that the convention itself far exceeded any of the hype that I had been given.
Oh.
So
Okay.
I've been going back every year since.
Now you're making me jealous. Well, I mean, I've heard about it myself. I've heard about the I've heard about the big Eastern convention, the beast in the Far East, if you will. But I've only had glimpses through photos. Even the videos tend to be a little bit cagey when it comes to what goes on out there.
And I know about that because in 2009, I did my second year, and the alternate history fan track at DragonCon was taking off. So there was a lot of steampunk people there at DragonCon, and I had my video camera with me, and I kept seeing all these amazing costumes, and I turned to my other half and said, wow, I won. It would be so great to find out how they made that. And he said, well, you have a camera, walk up and ask them. So
right.
I did. I walked up to people and said, hey, can I ask you about your costume? And I recorded their answers. And then I came home and I had a whole bunch of these interviews. And another friend of mine said, well, you can't, you have to put it on YouTube now.
Oh, okay. I didn't know there was an obligation.
I didn't either. Otherwise, I might not have done it. And then he said, well, you have to put it on YouTube, and it's a steampunk theme, so you're going to have a steampunk name now, and you're going to have to present this in some fashion. So that was the day I came up with Professor Upsidasium and Professor Upsidasium's Physiotronic Audiographic Steampunk Archive, which is a channel on YouTube you can go to and see some of the interviews I've been doing since about 2009.
Awesome. You hear that, everybody? He's got cred. So he's just the kind of guy we need to talk to. Now, lay this out for me, because you said you drove in. What's it like driving into Atlanta when DragonCon is not going on necessarily, but just getting set up, about to kick off? What is the vibe of the town like?
Well, the funny thing about Atlanta, DragonCon takes place every year on Labor Day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The convention is technically Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Right.
Well, as I think this is year 27 that just happened. As the convention has evolved, more and more people started showing up Thursday. So now there are actually some evening activities that happen Thursday, kind of, welcome to the con, welcome to the fan track sort of events that happen Thursday. The alternate history fan track was still my favorite place to hang out. They do the Aether Lounge Thursday nights, welcome you into the convention. So now the convention's kind of unofficially 5 days. All right, so you have all that. Atlanta being a huge southern city, Labor Day weekend, people are rushing into the city to see attractions. People are rushing out of the city because they live there and they're tired of this nonsense and they want to run away. And there is always, every Labor Day weekend, there is at least 2 major football games going on in the city, and more often than not, a huge NASCAR race happening right around the same time too. So the vibe in the city is just insane because you have people there from 3 huge events. Any one of them could probably dominate a fair size of the city. DragonCon is still, in my opinion, you said the beast in the east sort of thing there.
Right.
DragonCon is such a multi-day event, and it's of such scale that the natives certainly know what's going to happen. But the people who are coming in for these football games, they think they're the big event, and they come in here, and they're seeing stormtroopers on the MARTA subway system. Those are railway system, not subway system. But you get my point,
Yes, absolutely. I've been there myself now that I'm turning into a regular at Comic-Con.
Ah, well done.
Yeah, thank you. So is the town generally welcoming of the convention? Do they do any accommodations for it, or is the convention kind of left to fend for itself in the city?
Well, here's the difference between many, I can't say the word many enough times, differences between Comic-Con and DragonCon is that Comic-Con, by my understanding, is a kind of a centralized event. You have the convention hall and the facility there, and people kind of go to it.
Sort of.
Okay. DragonCon, in the course of its evolution, is now being run out of 5 separate host hotels simultaneously. And there is now a 6th building, which is the vending mart. The vendors area is its own 6th building in the downtown area. So is the city welcoming? Yes, actually the city is welcoming. They love DragonCon. DragonCon has its own parade Saturday morning. And the parade winds through the city streets and comes back to the downtown area where everything is happening. But imagine a couple miles worth of geeks lining up to see geeks march with geeks. It is an amazing sight. Again, go to YouTube, type in DragonCon Parade 2015. You'll see some of the footage people put out there already for this year. Any sort of imaginable fandom is probably marching in this parade along with some stuff you have never seen before.
Nice.
And that's just the Saturday morning, and that's the most public thing of all. When you get to DragonCon and you do your registration bit, they give you your lanyard and your badge, and that gets you into these 5 hotels. And from Thursday night on, all 5 hotels are running till late Monday afternoon. They're all running fan track programming. And again, just about any fandom you can think of is happening. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of hours worth of programming happening at this convention, often right on top of each other.
Okay. Now, you say you have your badge and it allows you into the 5 host hotels. Can anybody without a badge get in there? Ghosting is kind of a big deal in some convention circuits.
In some of the hotels, it's sort of a yes-no thing. During business hours, they have to have a little bit of wiggle room because hotels are businesses, and we are not the only people staying at these hotels. All those football people are staying there. All the tourists coming in from out of town for whatever reason are staying there. The NASCAR people are staying there. Whatever's going on in the city, people are also in these hotels. At nighttime, all the hotels step up the security, and they either want to see your room key or they want to see your lanyard. And if you do not have either one, you are not allowed in the hotel.
Okay. All right. Now, is registration a simple process? Does it usually run quickly, or is it a bit of a wait?
They have amazingly streamlined registration from years gone by. They introduced a computerized system, an updated computerized system, I should say, a couple years back. You can go online and buy your membership to DragonCon ahead of time, and when you buy the general membership, you're buying it for the whole 4 days of DragonCon.
Right.
During the run of DragonCon, you can come in and buy a day pass for the separate days. I'm not sure what the pricing is on that, but for the general membership, which is obviously what the vast majority of people do, for example, it's something I need to do on my next paycheck is go throw down my $80 for next year, and I will get a postcard in the mail. And you walk into this enormous room. They used to have these immense ballrooms with miles and miles of the velvet rope system. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, God, yes.
And you wind your way through the labyrinth waiting for the Minotaur to put you out of your misery. That's the way it used to be. And now they have everything so quick that you're practically running through the ropes to get to booths where they look at your, they scan your postcard that they sent you. They check your driver's license to make sure that you are you, because your memberships are not transferable.
Okay.
And then they hand your lanyard right there on the spot.
All right. So
it's gone from the first year I went. I will say the first year I went, it was probably more than an hour's wait to get inside the building, to get into line, to get my badge.
Okay.
This past DragonCon, it was like jogging around a city block. We never stopped. We went into the building. We went right into the room. We started doing the velvet rope. Up to the booth. Bing, here you go. And we were done. It's almost anticlimactic now.
All right, that's actually a good thing. I mean, you don't want to spend all day waiting. Some of the
This is a beautiful thing. We knew of people who would coordinate food runs while you were in line.
oh yes, yeah,
I've gone by.
I have lived that life. It is ugly.
Right. The registration happens at the Sheraton Hotel downtown, and they would set up a burger line that the line would go through. So if you needed a soda or some chips or a hot dog or hamburger, you would eventually pass that catered table. So it was a line that was so long it was catered. And now they actually have a hospitality table now, which will still serve that function, but it's off to the side. It's very casual. You run in, you run out, you get your badge. Oh, you're hungry, you have a burger. And the Sheraton's really great that way with their hospitality.
Okay. I think I understand a little bit more now. You mentioned the Sheraton. Which hotel did you stay at?
Pardon me. I'm getting over a cold, so pardon the occasional coughing.
It's okay. I'm getting over stupid, and that takes a while.
Oh, I'm still working on that one. We typically stay at the Westin Hotel. The hotels that are involved right now are the Downtown Marriott, the Hyatt, the Hilton, the Sheraton, and the Westin.
Okay.
And the Westin is the most recently added to that group.
Okay.
And we stay at the Westin because that's where the alternate history fan track is based out of. So, and a number of the side events we go to are also sponsored out of that building. So it's just more convenient to us to go downstairs than to hike down the block. We're wonderfully lazy that way.
Yeah, I imagine most convention people would rather stay in the center of everything going on rather than just, what can I say, hoof it back and forth.
Right. In the Westin, it's alternate history, so all your steampunk people are there, all your alternate history people are there. We also get the Stargate people. Their fan track is out of Weston. A lot of the horror stuff, fan tracks are out of Weston. The Whedonverse, all your Buffy and Firefly stuff, is now being run out of the Weston. And that's just off the top of my head. If you were a Star Trek fan, you'd probably be over at the Sheraton.
Okay. So that was going to be a question. Is the fandom is broken down, at least as far as presentation, by location?
Well, yeah, it's a kind of reciprocal agreement because when you are running a line of programming and you're going to have your speakers there and some of your appearances and stuff, for the general panels and stuff, you want all that very centralized so that the people that are coming to see your stuff, they don't have to run back, and they're not going to lose time trying to figure out which hotel it's in, and oh, this is here and that's there and that's in the other place, and they're going to spend more time running than actually enjoying anything. So if you break down the interests by location, then if you're a big Star Trek person, you're going to plant your stuff down at the Sheraton and hang out there for a while. If you are big into tabletop and RPG gaming, that's over at the Hilton. So you'll be living out of there for a bit. The big panels, when they bring in the guest stars, and there's a lot of celebrities that come out to DragonCon, they will put those shows in the very largest ballrooms at the large hotels. So, for example, this year was very big for the Arrow cast. And they had both Amels there. And that was over at the Marriott.
Okay.
Because those have the ballrooms where you can put about 1,000 people or so.
Right.
Or it feels like it anyway. Pardon me. They also have, DragonCon has its own television station.
Huh. Oh, okay.
And it's DragonCon TV, DCTV. And part of DCTV's mission is they cover a lot of the super popular panels. They have a cameraman up in the middle of the room, and they record the panels, and they send that out over closed-circuit television to the 5 host hotels. So, for example, there was no way I was going to make Sylvester McCoy's panel because, A, the line was wrapped around the building and down the block, and B, I needed to go eat something. So I'm up in my hotel room up at the Westin having a sandwich, and I turn on DCTV, and there's the Sylvester McCoy panel. So I got to
Okay.
see him after all. So yay!
All right. That's more awesome than I could have expected.
And other part of the mission is to relentlessly make fun of geek culture.
Well, I mean, we do that no matter who we are, so.
Right. But they have a TV station to do it with.
Well, okay.
Now, one of the things to know about DragonCon, and again, this is a big difference from Comic-Con, is that DragonCon is ultimately fan-run.
Mm-hmm.
It is volunteer work.
Yes.
There's a very itty-bitty actual staff on DragonCon, and then the teams and teams and teams of people who run the panels, get the celebrities where they're supposed to be going, handle the traffic flows, security, man the actual DragonCon vendor booths and such, interface with the hotel people. Those are all volunteers. It is literally an army of volunteers that run DragonCon.
Right.
So DCTV is also fan-made and fan-run. So you get a lot of independent projects, people doing their own music videos, people doing comedy bits. That all winds up on DCTV. And there's the production crew at DCTV who are a bunch of very smart, very funny people, love them to death. And they're always putting together some of the most hysterical things out there.
Okay.
On a shoestring budget, if they could afford shoestrings.
Understood. How was the staff at your hotel? Were they courteous? Were they standoffish?
They were exemplary. The staff loves DragonCon because we are the only convention that happens to them, well, on this scale.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no other group that comes into town that sits there for 4 days. And fandom, I still think, despite everything that's going on, with the bickering inside of the various parts of fandom and such, by and large, on the hugest, most broadest stroke, we tend to be very nice, kind, polite people
Mm-hmm.
on the broadest stroke there. And I think the hotel staffs really get a kick out of knowing that these crazy people from DragonCon are coming back again next year to fill up their hotels with lavish costumes, extravagant makeup jobs, more cosplay than you could shake a Yaya Han at. And it's there for 4 days.
Okay, I was about to ask which end you were shaking because that makes a world of difference in that equation.
Pick one. I'm not fussy.
I don't think I want to.
That's okay.
All right. Wow, that sounds really inviting. That's awesome.
I hope you can get sometime.
I'm going to start annoying Anthony because he mentioned going next year. I'm going to see if he can drag me with him for an extra pair of eyes. But
okay. So while the hotel staffs are wonderful, some of the staffs even dress up themselves. I think it's the Sheraton that some of the staff actually has their own little very cosplay-like, because you still have to be able to identify them as hotel personnel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they do this while on the job then?
Yes.
Okay.
So you'll see someone in their hotel jacket and like a Harry Potter wizard's hat on top. Or variations on that theme. They get more creative than that. I mean, don't go by my limited example here.
No, it's okay.
While the staffs are generally great and they really work with us, and I think the con people really, by and large, try and be nice, courteous inhabitants of the area, though there's always stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, getting a hotel room at the host hotels is, I think Hunger Games has nothing on us.
Okay.
When it comes to actually trying to get a hotel room. When they open these blocks of rooms, for example, it turned out that this past convention was just this Labor Day weekend, and immediately the week after, the Westin opened a block of rooms for 2016. And pretty much by the time the pixels had finished drawing on the screen, the rooms had been sold already.
Wow. Does the website crash during this process, or does it keep running?
Well, because you will make your reservations with the individual hotels.
Oh, I see.
DragonCon.org does not broker your hotel room. What they do is they the organization sits down with the host hotels, and they come up with a convention rate.
Mm-hmm.
Because these are 4-star hotels in downtown Atlanta. Some really excellent places to stay. And they bring that rate down. You don't want to know what some of these normal rates would be to stay, at the top floor of the Westin for 4 days. You don't want to know that number. And they bring it down to where us mortals might be able to afford it. Consequently, because these are really great rooms in really great locations, and there's a limited number of them because 2 football games and a NASCAR race,
Right.
the rush to get rooms is competitive, to say the very least.
Do they announce a day as to when the rooms are open?
Generally, often the rooms start going on October 1st, or very, very close to that.
Okay.
That's generally my go-to date, as probably have to start calling about the 28th to see when they're going to release rooms. But you can keep calling back, because this year for DragonCon, they were expecting 65,000 people for the convention. They got 70.
I heard word that they actually got more, but they're afraid to tell the hotels that.
I think the hotels would not be shocked. I don't see where the hotels have a problem with it.
There might be some backwards concerns about room stuffing and things of that nature.
No, room stuffing is it's so embedded into culture. I can't even. Going back to DragonCon TV, one of the bumpers they do talks about, because one of the places you will see these bumpers is not just up in your room. In all the major panel rooms, they have closed-circuit TVs hanging for you. And this is part of your distraction while you're waiting for the next panel to start, is they'll put this on the screen. And so they'll do things like, hey, make a noise when you see your number come up. Are there only 2 people in your room? Yell now. How about 3? How about 4? How about 6? How about 7? Hey, who's sleeping in the bathtub? Okay, so room packing, we've done it. We live it.
Right.
It is exactly what it is.
It's a standard of most cons. It's just a difference. The only difference is which hotels crack down on it. It varies rather wildly in my experience.
Now, again, the first year that I went, it was a very last-minute decision for me, and I guess for the people I went with. And they were like, oh, yeah, we're going to get 10 of us, and we're going to take a hotel room, and we're actually going to be out at the airport.
Oh, I hate it when people say stuff like that.
And that's what happened. I got, I'll generously call it half of one of the beds. And, that was my territory.
Right.
For everything I had brought with me. Everything had to fit into that slice of bed. And then at night, I pretty much had to sleep under it. And then Saturday, one of the guys, his sister, and her friend showed up and joined us.
Oh, even worse. No way.
So, room stuffing. Been there, done that. I don't really... And again, once the host hotels fill up, all the other hotels start filling up. Mm-hmm. They don't have the negotiated rates, so they might do a little something for you if you say DragonCon. They might not. That's how they make money, obviously. Yes. DragonCon provides a shuttle service.
Okay. Is it a very timely service? How often do they run?
Because I've been camped out in the Westin for like the past 5 years now, I really can't speak to the timeliness of the shuttles out of personal experience. The year that I did use them, I never really had to wait more than 45 minutes. And when you consider downtown Atlanta traffic, that's a miracle.
Okay.
Now, in theory, I think it's supposed to be closer to 30 minutes. But, when it's rush hour and everyone's trying to get to dinner and everything like that, I had to wait a little extra longer for one ride. And I'm not going to throw the entire system under the bus, no pun intended, for one slow ride. But the shuttles were good and the people were polite, and, you tip if you can. If you don't, they don't give you stink eye, or mine didn't anyway, because I was broke by the end of that convention.
Okay.
So,
Oh, all right. So describe to me the convention space itself. I know what happens in the halls of the hotels, but again, usually I just get small snippets here and there of what it's like. I can never tell if it's crowded or if people are on their way somewhere or, if they're hanging out, stuff like that.
The answer is yes.
Okay.
Yes is the answer to your question. 70,000 people still do not fit into 5 hotels and a separate vending space building. There is constant flow and go, let's call it that. People running to their rooms, people coming out of their rooms, people going into panels, people coming out of panels. There is a lot of congregation in the more open spaces. There's, as I said, huge amounts of cosplay going on. Beautiful, incredible, super high level cosplay and amateur stuff too. And I mean, this is always, DragonCon is always somebody's first convention.
Mm-hmm.
And I always applaud people who get daring. I'm gonna wear this thing that I put together in 20 minutes because that's when I found out I was going to DragonCon. Well, go for it.
Okay.
Do it, because that's what we're here for. We're, cosplay. There's the whole play thing about it. So come on and play. But anyway, kind of breaking down the hotels a little bit. In the Marriott, you have this gorgeous sculptural walk up to the drive to the front doors into the registration area. And the Marriott is several tiered levels of complete cosplay insanity. They have the largest open lobby spaces there in the Marriott, so this is where people go to be seen.
Is that hotel I always see people take pictures of? If you look straight up, it looks like the interior of a whale's ribcage.
Yeah, you kind of think you're on a low-budget Alien set.
Okay.
A low-budget Alien set could be 53 stories.
I always see pictures of that building, but I can never be sure of anything else I see because then from there it's all hall shots.
Yeah, that is the one where you see the bit about the carpet.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Yeah. The Marriott had this particularly funky, very Technicolor carpet with these rippling circular patterns in it. And over the course of, let's say 10, 15, I don't know how long that carpet has been there, 20 years. I have no idea how long that carpet has been there. Imagine 40,000, 50,000, 55,000, 60,000, 65,000, 70,000 people marching over this carpet and doing what people do on carpet. It finally had to come up. So it was such a distinct carpet that people were actually mourning the loss of the carpet.
So that bizarre, it almost looked like a targeting computer in the 1970 Star Wars films. That is no longer there.
Well, it's still existing in some places, but it will eventually be completely replaced.
Okay.
But the Marriott is where people go to be seen. It's where a lot of the fan booths are. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if you're a band like, say, Abney Park, which is a huge steampunk band, they will be down there. If you're performing at all in the convention, Emerald Rose would have a booth there. Frenchie the Punk have a booth there. Netherworlds is one of the big sponsors for DragonCon, and they're an enormous haunted house concern out in that area. And they do this wonderful, just off-the-chain sort of booth every year. So the fan booths are there kind of in the bottom. There are a couple places where they allow amateur photography, what you're going to do with your phone. You can just do that anywhere you want, just not in their walkways. Use your brain. If there's a lot of traffic going on, don't stop anyone to take a picture.
Right.
Because there's a lot of traffic going on. Be considerate to, people need to get by. They're going where they're going. That's not a great place to take a picture. Don't do it in front of doors. Don't do it in front of stairwells. I mean, use your brain.
Yeah, that's a separate problem, though, because that has to do with the individual thinking for 5 minutes, which typically doesn't happen.
No, I know. Even I've been guilty of it because you just see something that's so amazing and you're never going to see that person again. Yeah. And you just have to, mug them up against the wall and say, quick, can I take a picture? And, you're trying to whip out the camera and make it all happen in 30 seconds. And 30 seconds was 5 minutes ago because you can't, you're fumbling with everything and you get yelled at.
Of course.
But it's the other people policing, going, hey, I'm trying to get by. Hey, not in the hallway. Hey, sort of thing. So where you can, use your consideration and your better self and don't take pictures in the walkways and such. The the Hyatt and the Marriott are connected by walkways, which we affectionately call the habit trails.
Okay.
And those are the walkways I'm talking about. They also connect over to the Food Mart, the Peachtree Plaza. There's a food court. So you can habit trail your way through 3 hotels and wind up at a burger place.
Oh, it's not terrible.
No, but don't stop for pictures. And
yeah, don't expect to be anywhere quickly either, it sounds like.
Yeah, you need to pace yourself on DragonCon. But the Marriott is where a lot of the big concerts take place, or a lot of the big panels take place. I think they moved the what they call the Hall of Fame is in there, the Walk of Fame, and that's a place where you can meet the celebrities.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure what that was.
They actually they have a huge, enormous ballroom, and they put out tables, and a celebrity will be assigned a table. And when they are free, they will hopefully be out there, and you can interact with them and say hello, or take, if, I don't know what the exact rules are. You're not allowed to be whipping out your camera there, because the different stars want control of their images.
Right.
And
$50.
And $50. There is a professional photographer. I started this as a line talking about photography. There are a couple of approved professional photographers that are there at the convention, and they will help you with your group shots, and they will help you take really good pictures of you being at DragonCon, and they will make these available to you. There is another group that does pictures with you and celebrities, but you have to pay for those up front.
Right.
Because you're buying the celebrity's time, quite frankly, and it's worth it. So they will put up on the web page who is available at what time. Or, well, who is listed available on what day. Let's put it that way. Okay. Because the celebrity's time is, they have panels to go to. They have obligations because they're here at DragonCon to work. Quite frankly, they're here to provide something to everybody, and in between they'll go take these photos. Yeah. So you buy your packets of that, and you darn well make sure you get to your appointment on time, and that way you can get a high quality picture with yourself with the celebrity that you wanted to have your picture taken with.
Okay, it's not terrible. It just sounds like something you better block time for.
Yeah, and blocking time is a lot of what DragonCon's about, because there is so much going on constantly. Talked about the Marriott. I'm
sorry to interrupt. Tell me about the vendor space. I'm curious about this.
Okay, the vendor space 2 years ago moved into the America's Mart building. And the first year they did it, let's just call it an experiment, to be polite about it. Vending space had previously been in various ballrooms in the Marriott. And that can only work just so much. And as the convention grows, and you're trying to imagine that all these people at some point will hopefully filter through the vendors, because most conventions make their money selling vendor space.
Right.
So you have to have enough vendors that, 40, 50, 60, 70,000 people can get to them and buy things and be accessible to them. The vendors, on the other hand, if people can't make it to their booths, they're not making money.
Right.
And if they're not making money, they're not going to pay for it next year.
Okay.
So as the con continued to expand and grow, the vendors needed more space, and they needed more vendors. So they took them out of the hotels, and they moved it to building one of the America's Mart. And the first year, like I said, to be polite, was an experiment because it certainly needed some fine-tuning. In the second year, they changed a few things, and it really still had a lot of rough edges on it. This past year, they moved it to America's Mart Building 2. And Building 2 is a much larger, the first space, it's very difficult to describe these spaces, but imagine almost an old warehouse space that had been divvied up differently. And I don't want to say warehouse because that's too broad of an idea.
Is it just like some very plain hall space they have in the hotel?
No, it's not even a hotel. The America's Mart is not a hotel. It's a business building.
Okay, so it's a trade show building.
A trade show building, yes. Thank you.
Okay.
So the building one was, think of it as a retail trade show building. So while they had spaces, the spaces were not made for this sort of market. They were made for, you're going to have your little store and I'm going to have my little store, and there's probably going to be 10 feet between us.
Right.
If not more. As opposed to convention vending, which if you've ever been to a science fiction convention vending space, people are cheek and jowl against each other with no centimeters to spare.
Right.
America's Mart, they tried to sardine people into building one, and it's an old building. It didn't work very well. Building two, a little more modern, much flatter, wider, warehouse style. And I don't want to say warehouse in this case. Again, it's what was that term you used?
Trade show.
This is a trade show building because it has those super flat, wide floors where you can do all your drape and pull setups, all your booths. And they can be, this is the building it really needed to be into. And they got it this year. And all the vendors that I spoke to, and actually I am a strange enough person that I will quiz a vendor and say, hey, how'd it go this year? Was your load in okay? Were the elevators working this year? And people were glowing over it. They said, they were so much happier with the large space loadout and the small, they had separate areas. If you had a big truck, you could come in one way. If you had your van, you pull up to somewhere else. And there were vendors of all shapes and sizes in there, which there always are, but it was just great to see them in this enormous space.
Right. Okay. Was there a good variety of things to choose from in the vendor space? Was it a lot of people selling the same kind of stuff? What was that like?
The vending space is about as different as the 70,000 people going to DragonCon.
Ah, okay.
You name it, I could probably say yes, they sold it. They don't sell live animals. Okay.
Oh,
they
that's
do
a bonus.
sell live steel.
Oh.
There are leather workers. There are costumers. I stopped at a place called Absinthe and Tea, or is it Tea and Absinthe? I think it's Tea and Absinthe. They're going to shoot me
Probably
later.
tea and absinthe because it sounds like a TNA joke.
Might be. Anyway, I bought some really great tea from them, and I've seen them at some other events, and they're wonderful people. I bought T-shirts and music and videos, and name us something, and I could probably tell you which vendor covered that. There are groups there's one group that sets up a bookstore.
Okay.
I'm a vendor and I have some books, but they set up a miniature bookstore on the vending floor.
Complete with places for hipsters to sit down and read, or what?
Well, I mean, it's convention. I mean, you're probably cosplaying a hipster at some point.
Thought I'd ask. Let's see. People selling, I assume, like DVDs and videos?
Yes.
Collectible figurines?
Yes.
Posters?
Posters, maquettes, signed posters, unsigned posters, rare posters, out-of-print posters, recently in-print posters, ID cards, badges, metal badges, as well as just the little laminate badges sort of thing. So if you wanted to say that you were a field agent of UNIT, the Doctor Who group, you could find that right next to the X-Files ID badge and stuff like that.
Okay.
People selling swords, people selling shields, people selling lightsabers. One of the best lightsaber companies in the business, Ultra Saber.
Oh, they were out at WonderCon. I saw their booth.
Yes. They set their booth up like it's a castle. They have 3 walls around them that are about 10 to 15 feet high, and on top of these walls, like flags, they have all the different lightsabers they produce standing up in holders, so you can see not only the hilt of the sword, but you can see the blade, and they're all plugged in and lit.
Yeah, I think the biggest tee-hee-hee I saw at that booth was the Sword of Omen's lightsaber.
Yeah. Okay, I wanted it, but, money.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Okay.
Well, you can order online, so I'm still in trouble.
All right. one of the few things I get from the photos I see every year is that cosplay is not just varied but detailed at DragonCon. Is it depth? Is there depth to it too? Is it very prevalent?
The first year I went to DragonCon, I didn't know. And I felt like the proverbial Japanese tourist with a camera around my neck. I felt so out of place because I just had clothes on.
Okay.
And that is how prevalent costuming is at DragonCon. Costuming and makeup. And they have a fan track which is about costuming.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't do costuming now and you want to learn about costuming, go take some panels and learn how to do it. Come back next year and be something awesome. You could go into the vending space if you wanted to and buy custom contact lenses, parts for Doctor Who costume, come back and, woo, look at me. But yeah, we enjoy a little bit of cosplay ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Keep him with that steampunk thing and my Professor Upsidasium sideline there.
Of course.
And I think Edwardian looks good on everyone, just frankly.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not a big guy, but I'm a big guy.
Yeah.
And, okay, spandex is a privilege. It's not a right.
Oh, absolutely.
And I personally do not feel that I would look amazing in spandex. So there's a lot of superhero stuff that's just right out.
Right.
And I don't really want to go as the Blob because then I'd have to shave off my beard, and that's not going to happen. So steampunk. Steampunk comes to the rescue. Everyone looks good in Edwardian.
Okay.
Yeah. But it is prevalent in everywhere you're going to go. There's the horror people love. I'm not sure if they had a zombie walk this year. I didn't see it. I wouldn't be surprised if I just missed it somehow because of everything else going on. But they at least used to do an annual zombie walk where a couple hundred people show up in zombie makeup that they've been doing in their rooms for the past 2 hours or more, and they shamble around the block in downtown Atlanta, going off to scare the muggles 2 blocks over that don't know what's going on.
Okay, so usual stuff.
Yeah. When you were asking about depth, what do you mean by that?
Mostly I mean variance and detail of costumes. Those are the two things that that usually stand out at a convention that people are at.
Yes. There is amazing detail to costume, and there are variants. The whole gender bending, alternate Earth, this is my anime sort of thing that is prevalent in every other convention happens at DragonCon.
Okay.
And I know there are people that go to both Comic-Con and DragonCon.
Oh yeah, there's people that brag all the time.
Yeah. But I think fandom is fandom, and what you're going to see in one place, don't think we don't know about it, and don't think we're not doing it, or maybe we were doing it first. I don't know. Maybe.
It sounds only a little bit bitter.
I can't definitively say where anything got started, obviously.
Okay. Now, next up, when it comes to my general review of things, I always ask about the staff of the convention itself. Was the staff courteous, or were they dismissive? Did they seem well trained?
Again, everyone in the staff, with the exception of about 10 people that I can only know the name of like one off the top of my head, are volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
And what you are volunteering for is 4 days of the weirdest fun and the hardest work you are ever going to put in. Right. And I love these people. I think they do an amazing job. They try to train as best they can. But we all know that no plan survives contact with the enemy. That's an old military saying.
I know, it's just a description, as if, they dread people coming.
Well, in convention work, in event work, which I have done a lot of in my life, the enemy is unforeseen circumstance. Okay. You
Yes.
plan, your plan A is, if everything goes right, this is how we're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And plans B through triple Z are, and when it doesn't go right, this is how we're going to respond to it.
Well, it depends on who you're talking about, because some conventions, their plan B through Z is, okay, I blame you.
They do not do that at DragonCon.
Okay.
Okay. If you are misbehaving, if you are doing things you ought not be doing in places you ought not be doing it at, I would certainly be the first person to say, please collect this person and get them help. But my experience with DragonCon volunteers is that they are some of the hardest working people I have ever met, and the nicest, given the circumstances and the pressure that they are under. I've never felt like I have been blown off or dismissed by a convention person. Some of the growth of the convention, I saw new layers of security personnel that had been added to some of the venues, and the security people are not convention staff, and that's an important distinction.
Right.
Security person will tell you where to go and where to put it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's their job. But you can't blame the convention for the third-party security person doing their job.
You shouldn't, but you always know people will.
Oh, someone always does. But,
Yeah.
you know, if you needed to have that discussion with a security person, you were probably in the wrong in the first place.
Yeah, you're already douching it up, so.
Right. Don't be that person. But the volunteers, I do this at almost every event I go to, with the exception of very small events, because at very small events, I probably know most of the volunteers, and I'll just tell them to their faces. But at one point or another at DragonCon, I make a point of going into the security office, which is located in the lower level in Marriott, and I say thank you.
Oh, that's nice.
I walk in at some point at Saturday night, and yes, I'm probably drunk. And I say, look, I don't have a crisis. I just wanted to say I really appreciate all the hard work you guys are doing. And there's usually this uneasy silence because they don't know what the fuck I'm about to do. And then I say, thank you, and I leave.
Right,
And they're like, oh, we didn't have a bomb, thank God.
Yeah, they're probably waiting for you to yank out a batleth and saying, now we fight.
Yeah, something. But I think that's important to acknowledge the people that are working around you, because they are volunteers. 99% of the conventions you will ever go to, they will be volunteers. And you need to say thank you, and you need to say please, and you need to work with them, because they're trying to make sure you have a fantastic time. And there is no way in God's green earth that you can have a better time by treating them poorly.
Mm-hmm.
So if you treat them nice, it will facilitate them treating you nice, which facilitates everyone having a great day. And if you want to express a little gratitude because someone busted their ass for you for a weekend, I think that's good.
It is. It really is. It's a rare thing, but it is. So we talked about the city. Now, I did read a list about a week ago of what seemed to be about 25 different parties that went on during the weekend.
Oh, yes.
So describe to people who don't know the nightlife at DragonCon.
Oh, right. Make sure your children are not listening to this.
Okay, Jade, get out.
Remember I said that there's a party that starts Thursday night?
I do recall this.
Yeah, that was the Aether Lounge I was talking about.
Okay.
That is not necessarily... That isn't, I'll just flat out say, Aether Lounge is not the only party going on Thursday night, nor was it the first party going on Thursday night. The parties actually probably started Wednesday night.
Jesus.
And continue through Thursday, through Friday, through Saturday, through Sunday, through Monday, until whatever time the hotel staff finally asks you to politely pack your car and go.
So is there a break to this particular nightlife, or does it just keep going?
You used a word I'm not familiar with.
I see.
What?
You know what? I'm half black. That means I generally don't know what I'm saying anyway. Never mind me.
I don't think it has anything to do with your genetic makeup there.
You'd be surprised.
There is no stop. One of the DragonCon TV programming things they do is called The Late Show.
Mm-hmm.
And The Late Show comes on at 9 in the morning.
Okay.
Because you might just be getting back from a party.
Oh, I see.
So it's actually the late show from the day before is the joke.
I see.
So their late show is their morning hello, and it's the late show because you're probably just getting back to your room now.
What kind of parties are there? Because I'm sure people are going to ask that question.
Yeah. There is a thing called DragonCon After Dark. And think of it as kind of your primetime television viewing. Everything that happens during the day and during the daylight, they keep that family friendly. And
Okay.
they will ask people during the family hours, make sure everything's tucked in appropriately.
makes it sound like you just got to check your penis.
Body parts as they may apply to anyone of any persuasion, orientation, whichever, okay? After about 10, it becomes DragonCon After Dark.
Okay.
You start seeing a lot more content. There are panels that happen at 10 o'clock, which will, I know we're not talking about panels, we're talking about parties, but
right.
The more adult discussions come out at night, the more adult costumes come out at night. I'm not saying the whole place turns into some weird strip joint. I'm just saying that you'll see a lot more risque costumes, a lot more electrical tape comes out after 10 o'clock.
I see.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to see in Technicolor. I'm starting to understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
As for the parties, let me see if I have this. One of the things that can help you with your DragonCon experience is the DragonCon app.
It sounds dangerous.
I think I still have mine loaded up here. And one of the features of the app, well, this is going to take a while. One of the app, because it voraciously wants to upload. It wants to update every time you turn this thing on, which is a drawback of the app. I personally admit, not that I'm responsible for this. But one of the documents they give you in the app is a list of things going on in terms of parties and get-togethers and stuff. So what kind of parties? There's the Hero and the Villains Ball. There is the Mechanical Masquerade.
Mm-hmm.
There is, it used to be the Rainbow Flag Party. Now it's called Spectrum Party.
I think I know those people.
The Yule Ball, which is the Harry Potter crew.
Okay.
There is, well, let me go back over that list. The Spectrum Party is the LGBT party because yeah, they're everyone's welcome to it. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But DragonCon, like most science fiction conventions, is a very open and welcoming place to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So there are certainly more than enough people there to throw their own freaking party. And let me tell you, we have the best music. So there's the Spectrum Party. There's the Heroes and Villains Ball, which is kind of out of the MMO superheroes track.
Mm-hmm.
Yule Ball with Harry Potter people. The Mechanical Masquerade is the alternate history people, because you know I love them to death.
Yes.
This thing is still updating.
So you have a serious kind of pick your poison moment when it comes to the party scene there, it sounds like.
Several parties. At the, I want to say it's the Hilton. Yes, it's the Hilton. Do you remember there was Buffy and Angel? And Angel got his own show.
Of course.
And he had the green skinned demon with the horns.
Yeah, yeah. Lorne.
Lorne. Lorne, everybody loved Lorne and such like this.
Yeah, that actor passed away a few years ago.
Yeah. They do what's basically Lorne's Memorial Karaoke. It's Caritas Karaoke. And imagine doing karaoke at a convention surrounded by 200 to 300 people in all sorts of, cosplay, while Jumbotron is behind you doing the words, and I don't think anyone actually ever sings alone. It's like doing karaoke as your own rock concert.
Yeah, karaoke by Braille almost.
And karaoke by seismic device, because you get a couple hundred people all singing, Bonnie Tyler sudden eclipse of the heart.
Okay.
Now this happens next to a bar, so I'm counting that as a party.
Okay. All right. So yeah, it very much is. If you're looking for a party, you're going to find it. That's the only way to put that.
Yes.
All right.
And that does not even include all the room parties.
Jesus.
Because anyone can have a party in the room, and there are 5 hotels to choose from, and everyone's got a party going someplace.
Of course.
And there is this beverage known as pie. I don't know if you heard of pie.
Probably not, since I'm not a drinker. Describe.
Okay. Imagine, have you ever had mulled cider?
I'm not an alcohol drinker in any format.
No. I'm just talking about apple cider that's been heated up with cinnamon and nutmeg and...
I think maybe twice in my lifetime if I had that.
Okay, so think of that sort of apple-y goodness, cinnamon sort of thing there. And for those of you out there who are drinkers, now like throw in some nutmeg, some cinnamon, some Everclear, some
Jesus.
moonshine. Yeah, it is the cinnamony pan-galactic gargle blaster of con drinks. And it's apparently a huge DragonCon tradition that I only found out about last year or this year, I forget which. I think I forgot when I found out because I drank some, and that eradicated the brain cells that were associated with knowing whatever I used to know about this drink.
Now I can't remember stuffs.
Yeah.
Jesus. Okay, and that was created at DragonCon, or somebody created and brought it with them?
I'm sure someone... Yeah, if you Google that, it comes up as apple pie moonshine recipe.
Christ, that sounds dangerous.
There's an entire Reddit line on DragonCon pie.
Jesus.
Yeah, your drinkers out there can Google it.
I'm sure they already have. So, what was the most unusual thing that happened to you during the weekend?
Other than the cold I'm getting over?
Well, I mean, I assume you didn't get that directly from somebody, but I could be wrong there.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Enough said.
A little word about conventions and your health. Get lots of sleep, even though that's an oxymoron. Science fiction convention and sleep, I know. They like to say, sleep, shower every day, eat 3 meals, eat 2 meals at least. Mm-hmm. Take care of yourself at conventions. Wash your hands. Hand sanitizer doesn't actually really sanitize as far as I'm concerned. Wash your hands with soap wherever possible. Take vitamins. Build up your immunities. Take care of yourself. If you're sick, please quarantine yourself. Take a bullet for the team and stay in your room and sniffle. Don't come out into a line and cough on my neck and then wonder why I'm giving you stink eye.
Well, there goes my hobbies.
Yeah. The most unusual thing I saw at the convention. Wow.
I know. I just kind of threw down the gauntlet there, but it's one of those things. You go to enough conventions, you come up with interesting stories. I figure you probably had at least one.
I don't even know where to start. DragonCon is the experience of walking around a maze with 100 corners, and behind every corner is something you did not think you were going to see. You don't have the oddest things you see. You start developing like, oh my God, I saw that thing again. I saw, this still sticks with me. I saw this black gentleman last year who had these beautiful dreadlocks going on. He was in a Red Lantern outfit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, yeah, there's this guy, he's doing his own, cosplay thing, Red Lantern stuff. And then he looked up at me and he had Red Lantern colored contacts in.
Oh, okay. So he went the extra mile as well.
Yeah. And it was just that little added detail. Okay, that's a very mild example, but it was just like, yes, this is cool. This guy's really into it. He's doing it. You see small children cosplaying. I love seeing middle-aged couples, and they're doing Wanda and Cosmo from Fairly Odd Parents.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and by the way, in all those fan tracks I've been talking about, one of them is called Kaleidoscope, and that's the children's programming. So don't think there isn't stuff for kids, because there is. There's Kaleidoscope. There's puppetry, which is also for adults, but, kids get involved with the puppetry too.
Wait, what are they making the puppets out of?
Felt, I would hope.
Oh, thank goodness. I've heard of penis puppetry. You almost had me horrified.
No, I don't think we would be making those. We might be full up, but we shouldn't be, making them.
You never know. People are strange.
You're the one who suggested it.
I just know what I've read.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
All right. There was an older woman in her wheelchair, and she was done as a Game of Thrones character, and her wheelchair was festooned with swords.
Oh, sweet.
So her wheelchair was the throne of swords.
Nice. The Iron Throne.
Mm-hmm. The Iron Throne, thank you. There was another gentleman I saw at one point who apparently had some sort of issue, whatever, that he spends a lot of time in his wheelchair, let's put it this way. So he took an arrow and he put an arrow through his prosthetic leg at the knee.
Oh, God.
And you know where I'm going with it.
Yeah, I've heard the phrase.
Mm-hmm. He took an arrow to the knee, yeah.
Bless you.
Pardon me, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I've seen Transformers that can transform. I've seen some of the most amazing armor work down there. I've seen professional level R2-D2s, which I don't want to say that's become common, but it's very popular.
Yeah.
I've also seen Bar2-D2.
Explain.
Bar2-D2, you're not a drinker, you wouldn't get the importance of this, but Bar2-D2 is much like his cousin R2, except he's a rolling refrigerated unit with alcoholic beverages.
Holy cats.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. I get why people would find that important.
Mm-hmm. I've seen full-size Daleks.
Oh, okay.
There's always there's always people who do Doctor Who themed costuming. I saw, if you know your doctors, you know that the first three were started in black and white. It was
yes.
John that eventually wound up in color. I saw a gentleman who did Patrick Troughton cosplay, and he monochromed himself.
Wow.
So he was a black and white doctor.
Yeah, he went through dedication.
Yeah. You see things with so many lights that are flashing and parts that are moving, you wonder where the orange cord is plugged in at, because you don't think that can run off batteries.
Right.
It looks like somewhere in Detroit the city is dimming because they're drawing off the power grid. There was this gentleman who had this great effect. He just had a pair of white pants and a white shirt, but it was layered, and between the layers, he had put in programmable lights.
Okay.
And he had a very simple hand-clickered, very discreet little hand-clicking remote, so he could change up the patterns. So he could do monochrome, he could do white lights, he could do colored lights, they could blink. He almost had like a, original Star Trek transporter effect going on at one point, like he was going to beam out.
Jeez.
Yeah. There is just amazing stuff. If you, I was talking about the parade earlier. If you look at the parade footage, you'll see a lot of the costuming go by in the parade. What are some things I have seen? I saw a band, Good Company, and their flight was late, and
Okay.
they were supposed to be showing up at the Aether Lounge. Well, they were supposed to have been there. They were supposed to have been in the hotel hours earlier, and they literally, I think they were coming in from, oh God, I don't know where they're coming in from. I'm sorry, but
It's all right.
the point being, they got off their plane into a cab with its 5 people and instruments, into a taxi van, got it to the hotel, and they were literally coming out of the taxi onto stage.
That sounds like a joke in and of itself.
It sounds like the actor's nightmare sort of thing, or every cliche you've ever heard about this thing. But they had just come from another gig, had gotten on the plane there. They had been up for about 48 hours at this point.
Ooh.
And then they played, and they gave it their damnedest. They were a great band. I mean, erase all the knowledge of everything I've just told you. If you just walked in there and heard them play, you wouldn't have known that they hadn't slept in 2 days.
Holy cow! Did the crowd give them some love? I've been to some conventions where the crowd is unfortunately dead.
No, there was literally dancing in the aisles.
Oh, okay.
They're a cute little band. I hope they go places. They have an album coming out soon. To the other extreme, there's a band called Here Come the Mummies.
I've heard their music.
They were playing in one of the larger spaces. I stopped into that for, well, it was going to be, it started as a, do I hear a horn section? And I poked my head into this, huge ballroom area, and it was like suddenly I'd been transported to some serious level arena rock concert with this 15-piece party band from hell dressed as mummies running up and down the stage full tilt with on-point note accuracy. You cannot believe the musicianship coming out of them as they're running and gunning up and down the stage and singing bawdy songs. And
yeah, Here Comes the Mummies is kind of notable for double entendre music.
Yes.
And I've heard some of their stuff, and it is Blatant would be putting it nicely, I think.
Yes. They don't do the double entendre. They only do the entendre.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes. But again, imagine that. I mean, we have an entire band dressed as mummies, rocking out a stage for, a 90-minute set or so. I don't know how long they were on there because I missed the first part of it. 2 doors down is this drum circle that starts sometime around Friday night and ends sometime around Monday morning when the last person drags their Doombeck out. Just every room and every corner you go around, you're going to see something different. And last year, 2 wonderful people I know, Chris and Leia, they won the costume contest. And there's an annual costume contest at DragonCon, and they welcome beginners. They welcome, they have their different categories of competition and such. But Chris and Leia have been doing this for a bit, and they went in the Masters category. And do you know the movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you remember about 3/4 through the movie, they're trying to siege the castle, and they come up with the idea that Dick Van Dyke and Toot Sweet, and that's not her name. The other character there, the love interest character, they're going to go in as toys.
Okay.
Very elaborate toys. And they have this duet where he's kind of a clown puppet toy, and he winds up her music box, and it opens, and she's on top of the box spinning around, and she sings her song, look at me, da-da-da-dun-dun-da-da-da. And he sings a separate song about how he wants her and she never sees him and all this other stuff. They recreated that on stage last year.
Holy cow.
Note perfect recreation. They built her a music box to stand on that she rotated on. And they did the number. And they won the contest, yeah.
You kind of hope so.
You don't put something like that, you don't wear it once and then never wear it again. So I saw them out, and they were hanging with a third friend who I was introduced to, who was there as the rat catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang, the child catcher.
Okay, yeah.
So you have these 2 elaborately, clown-dressed, a clown, the music box, ballerina, and then, the man who's all in black with the big prosthetic nose and the crimped-up hat and the child-catching net.
Mm-hmm.
It was fantastic. Mad Max was huge all over the place.
It's one of those things that's lost on me. I've tried.
I have to admit that with everything going on this year, I have not seen that movie, and I feel like a very sad geek for not having done it. But I also feel that since I am alive and I have eyes, I have been forced to see so many clips of Mad Max, I kind of get it. I know most of the characters just from the Tumblr memes alone. So I think I was sufficiently in on the lines that I understood what was going on. And someone offered, uh, someone asked if I wanted to witness. I said I hadn't seen the accident. Um,
Was there a marriage going on that weekend?
no. It's
Oh,
it's a
okay.
line of the movie.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously I am not hip to the street.
That's
All
okay,
right.
Jeremy. Someone has to be not
Yeah, I know.
not hip. Anyway, what else can I tell you about?
I think you've hit most of the major points. I mean, what's your overall opinion of the convention?
My opinion of the convention. Um, this is how I break it down because you have experience with Comic-Con,
Oh, yes.
and my understanding of Comic-Con is that Comic-Con is a trade show, and it's in Hollywood's backyard, and they reap that benefit that all these amazing actors and set builders and stuff, they're literally down the street.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. DragonCon being on the other side of the nation, it's fan run, it's not industry run.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get those huge, no one's plunking Odin's Throne down in our lobby anytime soon,
Right.
just to make a point that a movie's coming out. The point of DragonCon is to get with the things that you love and celebrate that.
Okay.
Surrounded by 70,000 of your closest friends who you didn't know before this weekend, who also love everything that you love.
Okay. That's almost a touching description, really.
People talk about their DragonCon families, and that's really what it starts to feel like. I get excited. I had some employment issues last year. I was laid off from my job, and there was this large stretch where I didn't think I was going to go to DragonCon. And then I got a new job, and the new job paid me enough money that I was able to go. And the minute that I finished making my reservations, I was suddenly giddy, and I had not realized how depressed I had been because I was going to potentially miss DragonCon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going out there and it's seeing all these people, and I just love having these see the mass crowd of everything that's going on there. You get swept away into it, but you're also part of it. I was talking to someone the other day, and they said, "Oh, so and so won DragonCon," and I said, "No, you can't.
Yeah, how's that even possible?
You can't win Dragon. It's like they say, you won the internet, you won this, you won that, you won the other thing. No, you cannot win DragonCon because it's not a competition.
Mm-hmm.
We are all DragonCon. If something was awesome at DragonCon, it's because everybody else at DragonCon was awesome, and we all went there to see that awesome thing, and that inspired you to make this awesome thing that we saw or that we were part of that was awesome. So you can't win it because we're all part of it.
It's for everybody.
It's for everybody. It is for everybody.
All right. Well, so say we all. I don't think anybody can say it any more eloquently than that. So I want to thank you for coming by and explaining this juggernaut to us. Like I said, hopefully Anthony will get some money for the website, and then I will beg, because DragonCon is one of like 2 or 3 cons I would really like to see while I still have use of both legs.
Yes. Please let me know if you're coming. I would again suggest you book early and you book often.
Mm-hmm.
Those hotels downtown, and if it becomes a viable option, let me know, and we'll try and meet you out there.
Okay.
That'd be fantastic to see your face in person.
You say that now, but then when you see it, you'll be sorry.
Well, I was sorry when the lights came on in the studio too, but I've gotten over that.
All right. Swing and a miss. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Where can people find you on the internet? You want to give yourself a plug real quick?
If you are interested in the steampunk stuff and you want to see the Professor Upsidasium videos, which I have to go back and start producing some more of, just go to YouTube and search for Professor Upsidasium, kind of like the Rocky and Bullwinkle product of yore, if any of you are old enough to get that reference. Darn it.
I think some of them are probably still picking their nose anyway.
Yeah. But anyway, it's out there on the YouTubes, so you can find it.
All right. Well, thanks again for stopping by. Let me see, where am I next? My next scheduled convention is Kamikaze in October. I do a weekly comic book related podcast, the Rollin' 20s for Mission Star podcast. See, I'm also on cosplay.com under the screen name Freight. Thank you very much for tuning in. I will hand the keys back to Anthony when he's aware that they're missing. Have a great week. I am Jeremy. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of this fall. Have a great one, people.